Good afternoon, everyone. Here comes the bell. I say that because you can't see me doing it, right? So I hope that your mm, self-guided break, middle of the day, was nourishing. You got some good food in. Mm. On the schedule, I have a half an hour here to share some things. It's a closing talk from me. Afterwards, we have some Dharma sharing and closing as well. So there are more activities, but in terms of Dharma talks, uh, bringing it all together here, when we look back at the source teachings, at least insofar as the Buddha's teachings on breathing, and we go to then the Anapanasati Sutra. There was a copy of that sent out with all the confirmation for this retreat, and that it's pretty much the full text in that copy, minus the repetition, which is usually in the traditional texts. When you look at that whole, the structure of that whole teaching, not just the part about breathing, but particularly the part after the breathing, you can place this practice in a context with other aspects of the path of well-being, the path of awakening. So really the ground of the whole thing is the practice of cultivating one's awakening. And I will give you, there's a little bit of this summary coming with the link I'm going to send you very shortly. But the structure of the full Anapanasati Sutra, the full awareness of breathing, the structure of the whole sutra places this on the path of cultivating awakening. Right? And in the beginning, you hear the description of how all the monks are practicing in their different groups with their different mentors, and the Buddha shows up to offer teachings now and again, and they're on that path. They're on that path of cultivating their awakening. And you see that the full awareness of breathing is one among many practices that these practitioners may or may not use, right, on their path of cultivating awakening. But in the full sutra, that cultivation of awakening is presented in the form of something called the 7 factors of awakening. And the 7 factors of awakening are just Well, they're actually quite a positive and uplifting thing. So for all those Buddhists and non-Buddhists who like to say that Buddhism is all about suffering, take a look at the 7 Factors of Awakening, which is really all about the path of cultivating awakening. There's not a whole lot in there about suffering. The 7 Factors of Awakening are mindfulness, investigation of dharmas, which is looking deeply, the practice of looking deeply, right? Mindfulness, looking deeply, and there's energy and joy and ease and concentration and equanimity, non-discrimination, right? These are the factors of the path of awakening. So they also progress. It talks about them as when you have one and you build it, it grows the next, it grows the next, it grows the next. Well, my experience is they kind of all grow at the same time a little bit, but that progression is nice to understand. And at the front of it is mindfulness and looking deeply. Mindfulness and insight or understanding, right? They're right there at the front of the path of cultivating awakening. And out of that, energy, joy, ease, concentration, and non-discrimination, equanimity are built, are grown. So then the question becomes, okay, so if the foundation of cultivating this path is the practice of mindfulness and understanding or looking deeply, how do we do that, right? So establishing mindfulness and insight is what the 4 establishments of mindfulness are all about. And they're like working backwards from the conclusion of the sutra. That's the next piece, right? The 4 establishments of mindfulness. Mindfulness of the physical body, of feelings, sensations, of the mind and thinking, and of all things, looking deeply into them. So mindfulness of things and looking deeply into things. It's right there as the establishment of mindfulness, is the establishment of mindfulness and insight. And nestled in that practice are the 4 tetrads of the 16 breathings of conscious breathing. Right? So just to place it like that, you see the path of awakening built on mindfulness and understanding. Mindfulness and understanding can be established or supported, right, by the practice of the breathing. That's the backbone of the structure. As I mentioned a couple times, you can play around with the 16 breathings in different ways. Be creative and sensitive to yourself and your needs, your situation, as to how you might structure your practice of those breathings if you're going to use them, right? They do line up clearly with the various layers of practice in mindfulness. So you got something going on where your mind is super agitated, you can use those practices that have to do with calming your mind down, right? So be sensitive to where you're at and what you need, but at the same time, be aware of the whole picture. That's my advice, at least. It's really helped me a lot to see, that's why I tell you about these structural things and how they line up, because it helps me to have a guide, a structure like this, like the 16 breathings, and see how it covers all the different parts of my experience. And I don't just get locked into one or another, but even if I emphasize one or I'm focused on one, I still know where it nestles in the rest of them, right? And that for me has been important. I also have found this pairing of the breathings to be really helpful. Breathing in, I'm aware of my physical body. Breathing out, I relax tension, I release tension in my body. Right? That's a pair of 2 of them put together in one breath. And my breath has got this gesture in it already of gathering in, filling up, being really all there, and then also of letting go and releasing, settling down. Right? So pairing them, it's really interesting actually that the way they're written out, they just pair naturally. 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, and you have this 5 and 6 as being breathing in. I enjoy right? I enjoy feeling, because we're in the realm of feeling, right? So I enjoy feeling the wonders of this moment. So I'm enjoying feeling in this moment, focusing on the joy of my feeling life. And breathing out, I'm settling deeper into my peacefulness and my happiness, right? So I'm nourishing joy and happiness in one breath. 7 and 8, I'm aware of feelings and emotions. Breathing out, I'm calming my feelings and my emotions. 9 and 10, I'm aware of the activity of my mind. I'm aware that it's running here, it's running there. And breathing out, I'm going to turn from that running towards something beautiful. I gladden my mind. I make my mind happy and at peace. I bring it towards the good path. Return and come back to the Dharma. Come back to my presence and my love. Gladden my mind. 11 and 12 are just a beautiful concentrating and liberating. The more you stay focused and clear and release the distractions with the concentration on breath. Again, this is in the realm of mind, activity of mind and thinking, right? We're in that tetrad. The more I'm calming that and concentrating my mind on simply being present and breathing, the less I'm chasing after things. So I'm liberated from my rushing, from my stresses, from my worries. And I celebrate that liberation. I concentrate my mind. I liberate my mind. And that gesture we worked with very clearly with the 13, 14, and 15, 16 yesterday and today. Breathing in, I observe the impermanence in all things. Breathing out, I experience the fading of my grasping and desire. Breathing in, I observe the no beginning, no end nature of things. And breathing out, I experience letting go of my fear and my attachment. There's a link. It's a link to a Google document that you should be able to view, and if you want you can grab the text and copy it into anything you like, but it has the summary of the 16 breathings. It has that little structure of the full sutra in it, and it has my version of the pairs of breathings. Oh, I see a bunch of people just went right in. Boom, boom, boom. Look at all those icons. Oh, more. It's a joy to be looking in the same direction as you all. So please don't get too far into that document now. It's just a reference for you to carry forward. It's another meditation exercise that we did work with a little bit during this retreat. I led you through an awareness of the 6 senses, right? Eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. And in each one, we really were entering into simply sensing, right? So in terms of the eyes, really just seeing. And in concentrating our awareness on the act of seeing, we also clarify, right, how much our mind is running away from that. Right? When you're invited to just be with seeing, but it's hard, right, because you're thinking about this or you're distracted by that, then you see it. You see it. You see that you're not seeing. You see that your mind is running. And so we invite the mind to calm down and come back to seeing and being in touch with the eyes and what they do, being in touch with the ears and the hearing, and so on with the nose and tongue and the sensations of throughout the body, with the body. And then when all that's been calm, when you take time to go through all those layers, again, picture that there isn't much else that you experience in a moment that you can experience besides these 6 things. This is another way of looking at a whole model of who we are, the 6 senses. When you get through the 5 that are based in the body, the 6th one is the mind. And the mind is looked at as a sense just like your eyes. And the reason for that is because, well, let's go back to the eyes. When you think about what's happening with seeing, there's your eye, the organ of your eye, the sense organ of the eye. And then there's light, color, and forms outside, right? And when the eye, in good condition, has contact with light and color and forms, right, then seeing can happen. So there's a subject, the eye, and the object are the forms and colors, right? And the activity, the sense perception of seeing happens. Subject, object, and the action itself, right? Same with the ears, nose, tongue. It's the same with the mind. The mind operates in terms of thinking, in terms of all its conceptualizing, in terms of all its imaginings. Everything that we do in the mind operates in the same way. There's the thinker, there's the thing thought about, and there's the thought itself. Just like there's the eye, the color, and the seeing, right? So in me, there is a sense perception, an operating just like a sense perception in terms of my thinking, my mind. Buddhism also talks about mind in a very general, broad way, meaning mind can mean like all the dimensions of consciousness. It could mean your subconscious. So this, to be clear, this is the sensory perception of thinking, the sense organ of thinking. So we calm down all the 5 that are based in the body, and then we've helped then to clear the space out, so to speak, and there we can see more clearly what's happening in the mind. We have a sense for the space where the thinker and the thing thought about and the thinking, the thought itself, are happening. And we can take that space and with clear intention, gladden it. Bring it in a wholesome path. Turn it towards something beautiful, something nourishing. I wanted to revisit that because it's really ridiculously important that we take extra time to do this kind of practice. And it hasn't ever been clearer in my life that that's important than this last year of living in the world with everyone, right? It's always been clear, but not as, it's like really clear right now that it's so important for us to take care of what goes on in our mind, to be the ones who are actually choosing the direction of the thoughts. Because all the food that we're getting from each other, and I mean each other not just in Sangha, I mean each other in society, I mean each other through all the media you take in, all this food that our mind is getting, all these, in other words, things to think about, right? All these things to think about. It's so chaotic, it's so stressful, it's so full of suffering, right? And there's so much more of it now, like being thrown around between us, passed between us all the time. So we have to be really careful. Mindful consumption in terms of how you feed your own thinking is really important practice. And being able to feed your thinking beautiful things, deep understandings about yourself and about the world, nourishing experiences, thoughts, stories, very important. We all share a tremendous amount of pain and suffering in our histories. We all share a fear of suffering. We all share biological reactions and habit energies to protect ourselves from suffering, right? I have a lot of emphasis on suffering, threat, and danger in our lives. So to cultivate that path of awakening, which is full of what? Ease, joy, right? Concentration and understanding and equanimity. To feed that, we really need to make a good, clear effort. Yeah. And sometimes I have to be really clear with myself. No, Michael, I know it will be really pleasant to do that. Or, geez, it really feels like it would be important to learn about more about what, Donald Trump said in his rally yesterday in Georgia. No, really, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. You know what it is. You already know it's got suffering in it. You already know it's going to make you suffer. It's going to water seeds of anxiety and stress in you and in millions of other people. Feed yourself something else so that you're going to be able to contribute something, Michael. You're going to be able to contribute something beautiful, something uplifting, something life-giving to the world, instead of just regurgitating all that suffering, right? That is the path of awakening. You go around on the city bus, and if you don't ever get off, you'll just keep going around. Whoop, 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 whoop. Samsara. At a certain point, you have to say, okay, ding, let me off. Put your feet on the ground. I'm not going to go down spinning these stories of suffering anymore. I'm going to walk the path of beauty and light and goodness. Taking up that direction. Yeah. So right now, the world is not going to help us very much with that. So we need to take refuge in each other. Those of us who want to walk a beautiful path, you've got to support each other, right? We've got to do it. We've got to reach out and do retreats like this, have Dharma sharings, and have events as many as we possibly can to nourish that deep wisdom and that non-discriminative understanding, that peace and that joy in us. Humanity and the earth really needs that from us. And then we can support folks who are going to go out onto the front lines too, and are going to carry the calls for justice, and who might have to be very loud and assertive and scary out there, right? Who are going into those places, front lines. You can be that support and that clarity of the deeper vision of where you're trying to go, and help them, or if it's you, not get lost, right? To not get lost when you go out onto the front lines. May all beings everywhere be happy and safe. All of them. All of them. Not just the ones you like. All of them. Right? That's the path. Yeah. So, and then I'm going to share with you another document now. I've got just a couple minutes left. And in this document is actually text for a whole bunch of meditations. And some of them are as simple as, the calming and centering in the body that we've done a million times already this weekend. And we'll probably keep doing for many weekends to come. And then there is the sixth sense and gladdening the mind meditation as well. There's also a text similar to the leaf meditation that we were doing earlier today. But it's actually looking deeply into an apple, because I wrote that while I had an apple in front of me. And I was, instead of looking at a leaf, I was looking at an apple, and I was contemplating impermanence. Like looking into the apple, the first thing I see, because I haven't eaten lunch, is it's an object of my desire. It's beautiful, it's round, it feels like it might be crispy, sweet. I'm expecting, what I've learned about apples to be nourishing and sensuous, and I'm ready. So that's my first impression of apple. But then I'm going to look with eyes of impermanence and see the sun and the wind and the rain and the soil and how they nourish the tree and shape the apple. How the farmer and their sweat and their tears and their joy and their pain are transformed into that apple. And breathing with the impermanence of the apple, I observe how my desire to consume it is dissipating, right? The fading of desire, right? That's part of this meditation. And allowing that in that space, my desire to be replaced with appreciation and reverence and wonder, right? So I've moved from a sense pleasure to a soul nourishment. And then also looking deeply into it to see its no beginning, no end nature, right? And after I've done that, after you've done that, if you do this with an apple, this meditation with an apple, after you've done that, you eat the apple and contemplate who is eating who and things like that. It's really fun. So there's text for that, but just as a joy to be able to share it with you, I hope that you get a chance to try it. Meditation like that. And there's more text around that's more neutral in the sense of you can put the object that you want to look into it, just place it in there. Breathing in, I contemplate the impermanence of, boom, you put it in there. You know, myself or my anger or my dear one or this situation or that situation. You put the object in, and it gives the sort of the outline of how you can progress through looking deeply, investigating that Dharma. Both with impermanence and the boundlessness of no beginning, no end. Now there's also, after all that, 3 reflective exercises that had we another day, I would love to be able to take the time to do this. And I just want to overview them for you because these are like, do you remember earlier today I was talking about these 2 levels of work that we can do. One is sort of with the skillful means in our relationships, and the other is nourishing the deep sense of fulfillment, right, as a base, so that we can bring our best to those skillful means. And we got to do both works. So these are kind of in the realm of the skillful means part. One is a meditation on the image of a human being. And this has been important to me in a very general way, and it's informed. I wrote this out of the practice of touching the earth, really the 3 earth touchings, and looking deeply into one human being to see the stream of life that really is there. And not just a separate entity of a human being, but all that they are, and all the phases that one grows through and fades through, right? And it only takes 10 minutes. It's quite fun to do, but it's a great pre-meditation to do before you're going to talk to someone in a meaningful way. That's code for begin anew. So before you're going to sit down and consider getting into something with someone, you can do a meditation on that image of a human being, and it just sets you up for me, it sets me up in the right place. Like, okay, I'm not just looking at this person as someone who has habit energies I like and habit energies I don't like, and I'm going to try and figure that out. I'm seeing this deeper picture of who they are as a manifestation of the cosmos. That's my base, and now we can get into and understand habit energies with some open heart space and not blaming and condemning, right? So that's one of the 3 reflection exercises here. The second one is actually a meditation on beginning anew with someone. And it's a kind of thing you could do as a pre-meditation before you actually talk to someone. And we use these in Morning Sun as part of our work of ongoing beginning anew practice, where we try to get together or do on our own these sort of like 20-minute deep looks into the other person and into how I experience the other person, right? And do I feel ease or hardship? Do I feel connected or distant? Do I notice criticism of them or from them? Or do I feel understanding or that I understand? Do you notice any anxiety or fear here? Do you have lots of space? Do you have an unresolved tension, or are you clear and free? Right? It's a kind of meditation that walks you through sensing into this, and you do it with a pen and paper. You got to write it down, because if you do this without pen and paper, you'll get to the end and it'll go, and it will have been nourishing, but you won't be able to carry it forward. And if you do it with the pen and paper, pencil's okay too. You have a chance to look again at what you just told yourself, and to take that and move it forward in your way of thinking and feeling about yourself and the other person. But this meditation asks us to do that work of embracing and owning our part of the relationship. That even the experience I have of the other person, like if they were angry at me and it hurt my feelings, I have to own that those were my feelings that are hurt. I can't just blame you. You hurt my feelings. It's your fault, right? No, I got to do the work of saying these feelings live in me. I need to embrace them and be there with them, right? So it turns us away from the energy of blaming and condemning and being critical of others, to embracing and being present with the formations that are inside our own being. And that's the basis then for understanding what exactly you need to say to the other person, or do with the other person, or begin anew about, or not, or nourish perhaps, right? So there's that exercise. And the last one is a reflection. The last of the three reflection ones is about looking at the recent time of your life, the last weeks or month or year, and sort of beginning anew with yourself. Like, what's been happening in my life that's been bringing me happiness and ease? And what's been happening in my life that's bringing me frustration and hardship, right? And after you identify those things, looking into, so what have I been doing that's been feeding this happiness and ease, or lack of it? What have I been doing that's been feeding the frustration and hardship? And identifying the sources, right? Suffering and the source of suffering, well-being and the way to well-being, right? You're looking these very simple ways at the recent time of your life. You make these notes, and then out of that you can form the path. What is the aspiration you're going to make? Because of this understanding, you know what to do. You know what to say. You know what not to do. You know what not to say. Here you go. Get the share link. Boom. I know you probably thought, if we were looking at that text while you were talking, it would have been easier to understand what you're saying. And I agree sometimes. I think this is a different one. I think I got it. Somebody click into this and make sure that it's a... Whoops. Come on. I have to be done. Hang on. Copy link. Done. There we go. Let's get over here. Boom. Yep. You're popping in. Yay. Okay. Lots of pages of meditation text. Woo! Another 6 months of work. So the first ones are straight out of our retreat, and the apple and impermanence, and then lower on, further down, are the reflective meditations for healing and renewal. Image of a human being, a deep look at a personal relationship, and then understanding our life path right now. Yeah. So I hope you get the chance to read through these really slowly, so you can kind of sense what they're about, and then maybe take one or two of them up and say, all right, I'm going to work with this. Give it a try. Wait. Oh, I gotcha. I can try to send it as an email. But it might be easier for the retreat organizer to do this. Like if you copy and paste it and then sent it out to everybody on the list, that might be... I see Robin saying, yes, do that. Well, dear friends, it's been a great joy for me to be able to practice with you and I feel very humbled to be able to entrust my experience, that you actually want to listen to what I've experienced with the Dharma on the personal level. I also feel a deep sense of gratitude, because I know that pretty much all of what I'm shared with you is just the coming through me of things that have come from very wise and beautiful people before me, and that together, that's kind of how we're living into the world as sanghas of practitioners, people who care deeply and are doing what we can to bring that care into the world. Yeah. So I love that we have the opportunity to practice together, even though we're sitting so far apart. I love that we really can touch the water that makes up all of us waves. Thanks so much for nourishing the world with your breath and your presence and your compassion.